Welcome back to the Rediscovery Journal, the podcast where healing meets honesty. I'm your host, Sophia, and each week we dive deep into stories of self discovery, mental health, and the raw, real moments that shape who we are. Whether you're on the journey of growth, seeking clarity, or simply need a reminder you're not alone, you're in the right place. Let's rediscover what it means to truly know ourselves, one conversation at a time. This week's topic I thought could be like loss or the fear of loss. One interesting thing is a lot of people I know or I'm friends with have recently undergone a significant loss. And also, for those of you who have seen Blue before, last time he was on the show, he was not in a cone. And so in the past few weeks, have actually been battling with the fear of losing him. He has not or had not been doing too great. I took him to the emergency vet because something seemed wrong with his eye, and then apparently the medication that they gave him actually caused it to get worse, and he has an eye ulcer. And I took him to an amazing vet, and she got him on the right medication, but he is in a cone for the time being to ensure that his eye gets better. But during that overall process and thinking that he was getting better and then him kind of getting worse was really terrifying for me because I don't have any children. He is my dog child. And so the idea of potentially losing him and being all the way out in Texas with no family other than him and him maybe not being here was a really hard concept or thing to even think about. I have also undergone like personal loss in life, but I think it's so interesting and sad in a way that so many people I know are undergoing some form of loss in the past few weeks. And it's so interesting to think about because I feel like with the topic of grief, it's so hard to encapsulate or fully understand unless you have undergone a grief moment in your life. The main thing I can think of is, my goodness, actually, let me get it. So I used to be really close with my great grandmother on my dad's side. My grandparents would drop me off at her house and she had all these like little toys for us to play with, and we would like spend a whole day together sometimes. And she was just the sweetest and kindest person ever. But when I was little, she had painted this little rabbit, this little bunny, and she gave it to me obviously because I have it. And unfortunately it got dropped at one point, so my dad, I can't tell if you can tell, but my dad had to glue one of the ears back on, and she passed when I was younger. My dad was actually there at the hospital with her when she passed, and she wasn't doing too well. I had actually written her like a note or a love letter of how much I cared about her, and those were some of the last words that she heard because my dad read it to her. But I remember like being so little at the time and not understanding the concept of death that even though I knew she was gone when I went to her funeral, I didn't get it. I was there and it was High School Musical 2 had a book, and so I brought that with me, and there was this golden retriever there. So I was super excited to be around the golden retriever and like pet it, and to the point where literally the people who worked there was like, "This dog isn't for you, sweetie," because I was too excited, but I didn't understand why everyone was crying and so distraught. Because for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm off from school today, I'm reading a book, I'm with a golden retriever. I saw my great grandmother like laying in the casket, but for some reason in my mind, I just thought she was taking a nap. And I was like, when is she gonna get up? Like, why is she center stage right now in this casket? But like I didn't, even understand what a casket was. I thought it was just a weird bed she was laying in to take a nap and that she was gonna pop up any second. And so I know that that isn't a present moment, but knowing people who are undergoing that loss has really made me think about the concept of loss and how hard it is. People grieve differently, and sometimes it's hard to resonate with an individual or be there for them the way they need to have someone be there if you don't understand or you haven't felt loss yourself in that aspect. Everyone has their own grieving process, and depending on your relationship with an individual and the experiences as well as the time that you've known them, it really impacts your grieving process. And one thing that's so weird about grief is when you love someone as an individual, I don't think that you ever fully get over missing them because they were a big part of your life, even if it was, for a short time. But I think grieving is just continuing to live on and remembering them. But hopefully, as time goes on, it gets a little bit easier to know that you're still here when they aren't. And I saw this quote the other day, and now I can't remember it, but it was something to the extent of like, everyone thinks love is, when you're here, right, with your person or people that you love in that moment and being able to say, oh, I love you. But really, knowing you love someone is when you go through that loss and you remember the small moments and the small things that you did together, and every little aspect of their being is something that you miss or reminds them of you. No, sorry, not reminds them of you, reminds you of them. Like knowing someone and being able to remember those moments is the important things. And once that, fades and maybe you don't think of them anymore, that's the sad part. When you love someone and things that made you think of them all the time are now a small occurrence. And I also I don't know, I'm such a firm believer in the aspect that like, we don't tell people enough how much we truly care about them. If we did, I think a lot more people would walk around in the world knowing that they have at least one individual other than themselves who cares about them deeply and not cares about them on the superficial level of like, oh, I like you because I have someone to hang out with on Friday nights, but cares about your soul and who you are as a person. I don't think there'd be as much self-doubt potentially because it's so easy to internalize every, small thing and start to think like, oh, I'm not good at this, or like I said this and that hurt someone, and to start to spiral. But if you are told and it's not, a one-off comment, like, I'm thinking about you, I appreciate you, my life is better because you're in it. I think that gives people the ability to realize the positive impacts that they truly have on other people's lives. And I don't want to come off all preachy and like obnoxious, like, okay, we get it. We should tell people we appreciate them. And I'm not trying to peer pressure. I just think that when I think about individuals in my life that have changed me for the better, I personally don't feel like I've told them enough times that they've positively impacted my life. And there's like so many people I feel like I can list offhand that have brought me to the space that I am now. And whether they're still as impactful in my journey or not, or whether or not we talk on a daily basis like we used to me, they still hold a very solid space in my heart. You know what? I feel weird, but I feel like I kind of want to list some of the people that have kind of helped me to become a better version of myself. So let me just name a few people. It's going to probably get annoying, but let's see. I want to thank, like, this is an accepted speech. I would like to thank my sorority big, Amanda, my sorority twin, Audra, my sorority aunt, Susan. I would like to thank two of the amazing women I met through my major, which would be Keela and Abby. And I truly feel like they've made such an impactful, strong impact on my life where like we have a group chat and we still talk, even though they're all the way in Ohio and I'm all the way here, there's still that connection and bond that builds. Let's see, who else? Megan, an individual who I face a lot through, and we've kind of conquered a lot of things within our individual friendship. And then oh my goodness, my longest friend that I've had, Tori. Gosh, I don't know why I didn't start the beginning. Tori, who I've literally known since Girl Scouts. Now she's one of the strongest women that I think I've ever met. She has the most beautiful daughter, and she's such a good mom. Like, if I ever have kids, I feel like when I'm going to her for advice all of the time, because she's just so good with her kid. Not that my other friends who have kids aren't good with their kid, but I feel like in a way I kind of went through the journey with her of like I was present or friends with her when she found out she was pregnant up until, having her daughter, and then now. So like I've kind of been there, or like seen the overall process and growth, not only within her as a parent, but also within her beautiful little daughter. um then moving from Ohio, let's fast forward to Georgia. Gosh, Georgia. We have Jen, who was my next door neighbor and helped me when I was having a life crisis when my dog leaped out of my car when I was driving and was bleeding all over me. It looked like a scene from Dexter, and she really helped me to calm down so that he could calm down, and then also just help me with the overall process of moving to a new state and being alone for the first time and really figuring out what it means to be alone and be okay with it and make decisions that you need to make for yourself because you are a strong, independent woman. And she's no longer in Georgia anymore, but she was my first kind of deep-rooted Georgia friend where we would like go out and do things. Then if I talk about my next apartment in Georgia, would have to be my my neighbor, or she was at least my neighbor at first there, Sarah. She no longer lives at the apartment complex, but she really showed me what it means to 100% authentically be yourself and not be afraid of like how people will take you. I'm not at that point yet. I don't have that strength, but she's just such a beautiful individual, and she's so good at just being like one with nature that it's really admirable. And I wish that I could get to that point. In terms of individuals I met through my job in Georgia that I consider amazing friends would be, okay, I'm going to try and start chronologically. So Erin's an amazing friend that I met, and we actually were at first office mates. Then she got her own office, but thankfully for me, she decided to still remain friends and hang out with me, even though we weren't directly sharing a space together anymore. We started a thing that we called Coffee Fridays. So like every Friday, we would go and get coffee, the two of us, and it was primarily Starbucks, but it wasn't necessarily about Starbucks. It was more about like the conversation and getting to know her better because she's just a beautiful human being. And now she had one amazing cat named Spoons. Now she has two cats, which they're kind of battling it out right now, but I'm hoping for her and the cats that they all, kumbaya by the fire soon. Then after, well, I guess on the same day, I also met this amazing friend, Emily, and she was the first person at my like job that I kind of went out and did things with. When I officially got my like passed my master's presentation and knew like, okay, I'm graduating, like I did my presentation, this is great. She and I went out on a celebratory dinner together, and I don't think that she'll ever know how much that truly meant to me, but it meant a lot. And it was in the middle of like a rainstorm too. So like she could have canceled, but she drove from a different city in Georgia to mine so that we could go out and celebrate, because I didn't really have anyone other than her as a friend. And I was also there when she got her little sweet kitten, Stevie, that has now grown up to be a full-blown cute cat. And then in terms of individuals that I met who have also just made such an impact in my life would be Karen. She was in my training group when I started, and she was all the way in headquarters. So surprisingly, or by headquarters, I mean like the Atlanta area. Surprisingly, she became one of my best friends in Georgia. And I say surprisingly because you would think that the distance would cause like maybe friction or make it more difficult to build that bond. But we had to do traveling for work. And so there was a lot of times where both her and I were traveling to Savannah. And so we'd be in these hotel rooms and we'd get to dinner together every night, and we really just built such a rapport. And we're also, both of us were not from Georgia, so we commiserated over that, as well as like, oh my goodness, this training, what is going on? And then also just like I fell in love with her as a person. She's a beautiful individual, and like anyone who has the ability to even come in contact with her, I feel like their life is immensely better just because of it. And I mean, that can be said for pretty much all the people that I'm listing here. And I feel bad I haven't gone into detail for every single one, but some of these are more in recent year or recent time. And oh gosh, there's one more person I have for Georgia. My friend Melissa. She actually became one of my best friends, and it's funny because I didn't meet her organically. I met her on Bumble Friends, and she's the only individual in Georgia that I met on Bumble Friends and like became full blown friends with. And I also have some of my like fondest memories. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional, but like some of my fondest memories in Georgia are with her, or when I would have like a bunch of my friends like all together in one place. Literally, my friend Karen came down from Atlanta for a clay magnet night that I hosted at my apartment. I feel like her significant other was there too, but I also could be wrong about that. But like she came to the middle of nowhere to literally like come to this night that I was hosting when she didn't have to do. Melissa and I got this really cool art project that we worked on with clay where we were just making it. And my items look so weird. I remember we made them one day and then we had to paint them another day because they had to dry out. Her husband was like, "Where did all of our, like pans go, or like our pan sheets?" Because that's what we were using to have them like dry out or stay on. And I'm 99% sure that either the items I made are with her or like completely gone in the Neververse, which if they are, that's completely fine. It's because I kind of didn't really get to see her prior to leaving the Georgia area as much as I would like just because of our overall schedule at the time. But I was kind of like in the life journey or process with her as well because like I kind of got to see her become a mom now, and she's such a good mom. Like what is with like I love the vibe of all of my friends that have kids being such good moms because I'm hoping if I ever become a mother it will rub off on me. But it's like in my mind I'm like, what are the odds that I have friends that are parents and they're like good parents? Like I guess if they're good people they should be good parents, but sometimes I don't know, those things don't always correlate. So I just love seeing the time and energy commitment that goes into being a parent and the fact that people can actually do it. Because for me, I'm like, the idea of being a parent sounds petrifying. And the fact that I know people who can actually do it and do it well is a relief because it gives me hope that maybe it's not as hard as I have made it out to be, even though I know that it is like the hardest thing in the world. Anyway, moving on from the parent aspect. Then if we come to Texas, I met one of my closest friends at work. And it's funny because work meaning my first job here in Texas. It's funny because I feel like we met by coincidence and like now we're not working at the same place anymore. But when we were, like, we were doing like every small thing together. Like, she was my work best friend. We would go and clean the lab area together and, chit chat and work on many assignments together and all of that. And it's really hard not being able to see her as often, but she is also, you guessed it, a parent. And so her kid comes first and her kid is so cute. But I think it's really awesome because like right now we decide like, okay, we both care about each other. We want to both put in effort with each other. Let's do a mini book club, the two of us, and then we can like text about it as we read too to like enhance that connection because we don't always get to see each other in person as much as we would like to, which is really cool. Then I have a whole bunch of like other Texas friends. I think it's like the first time in my life that I feel like I have a large group of what's the word I'm looking for? Or a significant number of friends who care about me on a deeper level. Like it's not shallow in relationships. And we all met, I feel like by coincidence in a way, because I happened to go to a girl or Valentine's Day event at Maya's place, a girl I had not met yet. And so glad I went because that's kind of where I met a lot of people that I'm friends with now is from that event. One of them being, well, I don't know, name I mentioned earlier, Maya, which has been really nice because there was a holiday, not 4th of July, there was one before then, and Maya was super nice to invite me over to like be with her family and spend the holiday with her family instead of being alone because as previously mentioned, my family or my parents are not in Texas, and so I don't really get to spend holidays or days off with them, at least not in person. So that was really kind and generous of her to like open up her family's space and home to allow me to be a part of it when she didn't have to do that. And we're still newer-ish friends in the getting to know you stages of our friendship. Then Leilani is someone else that I met at that Valentine's Day event, and we actually went to a concert with our other friend on Saturday, Cindy, a Big Time Rush concert. And it is the first time that I've gone to a concert in Texas. It is also the first time that I've been to a concert since leaving Georgia. And the only concerts that I went to in Georgia were with Karen. It was a great time, but I think it was hard for me because it just kind of made me miss Karen a little bit more, because we used to do like all these like little trips. Like we would go, well, trips meaning I would come to her and we would go see a play or go see a concert and like do all of these really fun events. But anyway, back to Leilani. Lenny's birthday, as well as Maya's as well, is coming up. And Leilani is just such a beautiful soul. Like, I remember when I first met her, I was so nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, this girl's so amazing. Like, I hope that she, is vibing with me the way that I'm vibing with her, because it would really suck if, like, I think that we have a friendship opportunity or friendship sparks and the other person isn't feeling it. But she had sent in this group message about going to the Big Time Rush concert, and I was like, yes. And ever since then, like, I swear, I feel like I see her hopefully multiple times a month when I see her, and it's so nice. I feel like I feel just automatically comfortable around her, kind of like she knows my soul, even though it's only been a few months. And on top of that, we also have our other friend Jessica, that like the three of us will get together and do things all the time. We have a really cute group chat with just the three of us, and they have just created such a safe space for me to feel comfortable. And it's also weird because like when I was in my in-between phase of like figuring out what I was going to do when I was pivoting and being in that in-between moment, like I spent as much time as I could with the two of them. And they made such an effort to not make me feel lesser than. I don't think that they'll ever know how much that meant to me, because they could have very easily, dropped me as a friend or not included me in things because they knew I was in a different space than them, but yet they still made the time and energy and made sure to check in on me, even though some of those moments were kind of rough in between there. Another one of my favorite people that I've met since I moved to Texas would be Maddie, which I think she was on a few episodes ago. She is like so creative and entrepreneur in her own right, and she just has such a beautiful inquisitive mind. Like, I wish I could embody more of her generosity and kindness, because I feel like she's years ahead of most people, including myself, in that aspect. She's also just so creative. Like, she can do graphics, goodness. She can host events. She has her own like jewelry making business. Like, it just makes me question, like, what can't she do? Because it seems like she can do anything and everything. Another really good friend that I've made since I moved here would be Cindy, and I think she was on last week's episode. It's so wild to me to think about moments or conversations that you have with people where if you didn't have that moment, you didn't have that conversation, you wouldn't be in that current state you are in terms of friendship or relationship. And Cindy's amazing. She embodies a lot of things that I wish I was better at. She's a lot more assertive and strong in her viewpoints. If someone tries to push her into something she doesn't want to do, straight up she stands up for herself, and they know, no, this isn't going to happen. And I am not good at that. I'm working on it, but we're not there yet. But she's so strong in her beliefs and holding to that. She's open to opinions and, of course, conversations, but when she tells someone she's not doing something and they try and push her into something she's not comfortable with, the answer is no. And I really admire that because, again, I'm trying to get to that point, but I'm not at that point yet. Another individual or like friend that I truly value, I would say, is a friend I met named Madra, and she's not currently in Texas. Actually, she's out of the state with her significant other for work stuff, but she brings such a genuine energy to the environment that she's in. I feel like even if you're in a bad mood, when she's around, you can't possibly be in a bad mood because she has that aura about her. I also just can't imagine anyone, well, this also could be said for many. I can't imagine anyone meeting either of them and thinking, I don't like you. Like, there's just something about them where it's like, you automatically want to be their friend. And of course, this is just my opinion, but there's some people that you come across in your life and you can't imagine them being seen in a negative light, if that makes sense. I can't imagine meeting either of them and thinking like, meh, you know? Like, they're just too cool. If anything, I feel like I would feel intimidated. But one thing I really admire about Madra is her authenticity with like who she is, in terms of she doesn't hide herself. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, there's so much fear in the climate that we live in, that it can be really easy to slip into the what if scenarios or just think about the world, in a greater span and hold yourself back from things that you want to do and aspects of yourself because you're afraid. And she doesn't let that hold her back. Trying to think what other people I haven't met in Texas that like have made a significant impact on my life. I do have to say that going back to the whole blue topic, I made this really kind friend who, when I was having a psychotic break and a really hard time the past 2 weeks, she was kind enough to send me like a little care package. She sent me these beautiful flowers. Okay, people, like who sends people I've never gotten flowers from someone before other than my parents. So like this is a really sweet gesture in and of itself. She also got Blue some dog treats and a dog toy. And I really wasn't expecting that kind of kindness from someone in general, let alone someone who's only known me for a short period. So I'm really grateful for her kindness and willingness to kind of check in on me in a moment where it was spiraling just a bit. And I also just love this vase that I have because I just think it goes so beautiful with these flowers. And anyone who knows me knows that I have a fruit aesthetic. And so this is the first time I've gotten to use this strawberry vase. And I feel like it was just perfect with the pink of these flowers. It's just chef's kiss. Also, these flowers I think are like almost a week old or something like that. And look how lively they still are. Like, girl knows how to pick good flowers. But she's also super good when it comes to embroidery and stuff. And she has her own, shoot, what's it called? Like Instagram, I think, that she just made for it. So that's really cool. I have no talent with a sewing machine or embroidery machine. I'm not really sure if they're even the same thing or different things, and she hopefully will one day teach me her ways. In terms of friends that I have met who aren't in-person friends but I've just met through the podcast, it would probably be every individual I've had on my show so far, pretty much. But I would say on top of that would be a lot of the individuals that I act like I'm super popular, that I've done art trades with. But prior to talking about that, I needed to switch back to Ohio because I forgot one of my most important friends there, which would be Ellie, who actually met me freshman year. She's been on my podcast a few times. She really, really, I feel like, knows me because we met each other when we were those freshman babies. And so we have seen each other like at our really low lows and high moments. And I just really admire her. I mean, literally, with everything going on in the world, she went to another country to visit her significant other. Don't know if you could see me doing that. And she's also like similar to me, kind of shifted her career trajectory to think about what she wants for her future more. Also, one thing I love about her is her sense of like style and fashion. Oh my gosh. She has the most beautiful tattoos, and her art style is absolutely, I'm going to say, drop dead gorgeous, which is, I know what people normally say like about appearances, but that's how I feel about her art, her aesthetic, her vibe. And I honestly couldn't imagine where my life would be had I not met her in college. And I think I probably mentioned this on a prior podcast episode, but when I first met her freshman year, we ended up being, what is it called? Lab partners in chemistry. And I thought she hated me for the longest time. And then we got these quote unquote famous breadsticks from I don't even know if that was the first instance where we hung out, but at one point we went from, me not being sure to, her and I kind of having sleepovers and getting our, I think it's called campus polyies, and it wasn't on campus, it was off campus, but they make these really, really like famous in our college towns breadsticks, which were a big deal. Anyway, then back to people I've met through my art trades. I would say like two of my closest friends I've met through my art trades would be Anka, who came on the show, and she's a brilliant artist. For those of you who don't know who Anka is, I highly recommend not only listening to that episode, but also checking her out on Instagram or TikTok, as well as her website, because she makes some amazing art, like drop dead gorgeous, and not just jewelry art, but also like she's just a multimedia, multi-talented artist overall. Then another friend that I met, it has her own business, Hot Girls Hobbies, which I think I talked about before with the amazing olive rug that I got from her website, which it's so funny because Blue is literally sleeping on it right now. It's his favorite rug in my house, which is funny because like I have an egg rug. He doesn't care about that one, but this olive rug that I made, he loves. He just lays on it all the time, goes back and forth between that and his bed. Anyway, she's also been an amazing friend. And I wouldn't have met either of those two individuals had I not taken risk and reached out like, hey, I think your art's really cool. Anyway, you would maybe like my art and want to do something with this. And the girl who owns Girls Hobbies, by the way, is her name's Annie. But people I've met through the overall podcast and taking a chance on myself would be Allie, that amazing poet I had on, who has written 2 books and has a 3rd one on the way. She's an amazing human being. And it's wild to me how like you can form relationships or friendships with people virtually or online verse now. Like we check in on each other, we care about each other's achievements, and that can be said for any of those individuals that I mentioned. But her and the previous 2 that I mentioned are individuals that I met through online endeavors, like not even like in-person bump-ins or conversations. Another person I can think of that I absolutely love, and probably one of my favorite conversations that I've had on the show, would be Brigitte. Which I really hope that I did not butcher her name again. But she's an amazing artist in Arizona, and she truly makes things come to life. I don't know. It's so weird to think about where you have been in with your life and where you're going. And it's also kind of weird to me that I started off with the topic of grief and loss, and then kind of circle around to topic of people I care about. But since I kind of went into like a whole thing about people I care about and going in depth into those individuals, I only feel like it's right to go a little bit more into depth with the people that I mentioned at the beginning of that conversation. Going back to Greek life, big Amanda. It was so funny to me because when I joined Greek life and we had like Big Little coming up, I chose someone else. And when things were coming up to when we were finding out, I was really disappointed because she was the individual that I felt like would be an amazing mentor for me. She was very strong in a lot of areas that I was lacking. And thankfully, I did end up being an individual that she had chosen. And I think I learned so much from her, not only about how to be a strong woman, but also when it comes to just being a leader and taking risks and taking chances that will hopefully pay off for the betterment in terms of an organization that you're in. And also being strong in who you are and she was very good, or not was, she still is very good at, what's the words that I'm trying to put together? Being her bright, beautiful self, and also being very strong in her boundaries. I think Susan had mentioned, like, if someone brought something up and it didn't fit in with what she needed to get done, she's not doing it. She's not gonna rearrange that to please other people. right? She knows who she is, and she was so strong and admirable in the aspect of like what it meant to lead in a setting full of a lot of voices. Another thing I admired about her was her ability to separate logic and emotion. She's very good at making headstrong, logical decisions and not letting feelings get in the way of that. And I think I admired that so much because I'm so in touch with emotions that it was very beautiful and eloquent to kind of see someone who is fully led by logic. Another individual that I appreciated from my sorority family would be my sorority twin, Audra, and she's so freaking cool. She went back and she got her master's. She lived in Hawaii for a little while. And it's so funny because the individual she's with, we knew in college, and they're just so beautiful together. Just admire so much the life that she has lived because she's lived in Hawaii with her significant other. I believe they're back in Ohio now. But when people tell me, "Oh, you take risks to move places," like the risks that I have taken, I feel like don't even amount to the amount of risks that she has taken. She's also been so heavily involved in humanitarian work and helping other people, thinking outside of herself and making a true impactful difference on the world around us. Like she's been so heavily involved in nonprofits, and even when we were in college, she was going out and doing what they called BGAB trips, which was basically during different breaks that we would have, groups of people would go to different areas and help with a specific cause in that area. So building a home, or that's the main one that I can think of right now. But she's so driven to help others, but also she's so strong in her own voice and knowing what she wants in life. And one thing that I think is super admirable about her is her love for being out in nature and making the outdoors fun. Like I would go on a trip with her that was fully outside just because it was with her. And I am not typically an outdoorsy girly. So, it means something. Plus, I feel like, I love seeing her so happy, and I hope she continues to thrive in that aspect, even though, we don't get to see each other as much. We don't get to talk as much. Like that doesn't impact the um, amount of love and care that I have for her in my heart. Another individual that I had mentioned was my sorority aunt. I think or would it be my sorority great aunt? I don't know. Greek life is what it is. But that would be Susan. She was also on the podcast a while back. But one thing I loved about her was sometimes people look at you and they try to define you by what they can see, and she doesn't let people define her like that. She's always breaking bounds. She's always going beyond what people think her capabilities are. And it would be so easy to just sit back and make excuses. Oh, I can't do this because of this. And she propels the opposite. I also just love her reading ability. She goes through books so quickly, just like my friend Katie. And I'm still waiting for her most recent book synopsis, but she gives the best like book summary synopses. So it's like, wow, if I don't have time to read, but that book sound interesting, can you just give me the lowdown of like everything that happened within that book so I can feel like I read that book even though I didn't? And it was like watching a movie. She could fully give you full on details, and it's like a cinematic experience that I fully enjoy. And I feel like maybe that sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I 100% mean that. Anywho, this has been kind of long about me talking about people, and hopefully they don't feel uncomfortable about it. But I just want to say thank you for joining me on this journey of rediscovery. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd like for you to like, subscribe, or leave a comment, or share this episode with someone you never know who might need it, or someone you think might need it. Remember, healing isn't linear, and growth, it takes courage, but you're never alone in it. Let's keep this conversation going. Follow the Rediscovery Journal on Instagram at the Rediscovery Journal and connect with our community. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and most of all, keep showing up for yourself.